I, 26-year-old female, was adopted as an infant and have never met my birth family. I did seek some answers when I was 19 with the help of my parents, and it was made very clear that nobody in my birth family wanted anything to do with me. I couldn't even access medical records. The reason is that I was the result of an affair. My birth mother tried passing me off as her husband's, but when he found out, she was too far along to abort me. My birth father and his wife also wanted nothing to do with me. None of the siblings on either side wanted to know me or any of their extended families. I was the dirty piece of history they all wanted to erase. This was not exactly a secret since I was known, but certainly not a person in their eyes. I wasn't really hurt by the rejection, but I was frustrated by the lack of medical information. That was the primary thing I would have liked, and I mentioned this when reaching out. I always had my own family, so it was never about meeting my real family or anything. My real family is the people who raised me, and I grew up alongside them. So that's my background related to my adoption. I have a 21-year-old cousin who is also adopted. She was also adopted as an infant, just like me. My uncle, Dad's brother, and aunt, Dad's sister-in-law, are her parents. Unlike me, my cousin longed for her birth family from the moment she found out she was adopted, which happened when she was 10. This was not because her parents told her, but because a cousin blabbed. She does not have a good relationship with her parents. She struggles far more with being adopted and really feels lost. She has confided in me before, and I was always okay with that. I would support her and cheer her on when she mentioned wanting to find her birth family. However, she has been unable to find out any information, and now she is fixated on this idea that I need to reach out to my birth family again. She has told me that she knows it must deeply upset me and leave me with a deep longing to know them, even though they have said no. I have explained that I never felt that, and I was mostly wondering about medical history when I reached out. She keeps telling me no, she knows that's not true. We're the same. She tried gifting me an Ancestry DNA kit to help me make contact with them again. I have tried being kind and understanding, and suggested she find other adoptees to find someone with her experiences. But she keeps insisting that our experiences are the same, and our feelings are the same, and we should stick together and find our real families together. I lost my temper with her last week, and told her that we are not the same. And she needs to accept that I do not care and do not want to find my birth family. I cannot keep helping her if she won't accept that. I said this after she tried to give me another DNA kit. She is wasting her money and being so pushy, and it set me off. She told me that we're supposed to have each other's backs as the adoptees of the family. Am I the idiot? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. She is projecting onto you. If she needs to find her family, you need to find your family. And if you need to find your family, then she isn't different for wanting to find her family. And when you are successful in getting back with your family, which she knows will work out, obviously she will be successful in getting back with her family. Logic doesn't enter into it clearly, but her thought process may be somewhat similar to the above. So no, not the idiot. You have repeatedly set boundaries that she has ignored because they do not suit her view of how things should be. Comment 2. Not the idiot. Having each other's back and having the exact same reaction to similar experiences are not the same thing. People are different, and her needing you to want the same things she wants is just something she needs to get over for everyone's sake. Now for the update. Hey Reddit, it's been a week since I posted about my cousin and the whole adoption drama. You won't believe what's happened since then. So, after I lost my temper with my cousin, things got really awkward. I thought she'd back off, but nope, she doubled down. She started sending me old family photos and messages about how we could be missing out on a wonderful family experience by not knowing our birth families. I tried to ignore her, but she just wouldn't let up. Then, out of nowhere, my cousin drops a bombshell. She tells me she's been in contact with someone from my birth mother's side of the family. I was floored. How did she even find them? Turns out, she used the DNA kit I refused to take and somehow managed to connect with a distant relative who was willing to talk to her. This relative, let's call her Jane, was apparently my birth mother's cousin. Jane had heard about me, but never met me. She told my cousin that my birth mother passed away a few years ago. That was a shock, but not as much as what came next. Jane had been keeping tabs on my birth father's side too. She revealed that my birth father wasn't just some random guy my birth mother had an affair with. He was actually a well-known businessman in the area, and get this, he had passed away recently, leaving behind a huge mess of a will. Now, I had never cared about meeting him or getting anything from him, but Jane said there was a twist. My birth father had left a letter for me, along with a significant inheritance. I couldn't believe it. Why would a man who wanted nothing to do with me leave me anything? I was skeptical, but Jane seemed genuine. She even had proof, documents that mentioned my name. It was all too much to take in. I had spent years not caring about these people, and now they were suddenly a part of my life in a way I never expected. My cousin was ecstatic. She thought this was our chance to finally connect with our roots. But I wasn't so sure. I didn't want money from a man who had rejected me, and I didn't want to stir up any drama with a family that had made it clear they didn't want me. But then, the real shocker came. Jane told us that my birth father's family was contesting the will. They didn't want me to get a cent. They claimed that I was a mistake that should have been forgotten, and now they were fighting to keep me out of the picture. I was angry, not because of the money, but because these people still saw me as something to be ashamed of. It was like I was being rejected all over again. My cousin saw this as a battle we needed to fight together. She said it was about standing up for ourselves as adoptees. But I didn't want to fight. I just wanted to live my life. The confrontation came when one of my birth father's daughters, let's call her Sarah, reached out to me. She was furious. She accused me of coming after their family's money and said I had no right to anything. I tried to explain that I didn't even know about the inheritance until recently, but she wouldn't listen. It was a heated exchange, and in the heat of the moment, Sarah let slip something that left me reeling. She said that my birth father had always known about me, had kept tabs on me, and had even helped pay for some of my expenses growing up without my knowledge. My adoptive parents had never told me any of this. I was stunned. My whole life, I thought my birth parents wanted nothing to do with me. But now I was learning that wasn't entirely true. It felt like my world had been turned upside down. I confronted my parents about it, and they admitted that my birth father had set up a fund for me. They said they didn't tell me because they wanted me to feel like a full member of their family, not someone with a backup plan. I didn't know what to feel. Betrayed, confused, angry. It was all too much. And now, with this inheritance mess, I was being dragged into a family feud I wanted no part of. So that's where I'm at, Reddit. My cousin thinks we should fight for the inheritance, but I'm not sure I want anything from these people. And now I have to deal with the fact that my birth father was a part of my life in a way I never knew. Mom kicks me out at 16 and shows up at my ranch, demanding I come back home. Oh boy, she doesn't know Uncle is here. My 21-year-old male, Mom and I have a less than stellar relationship. My parents are divorced, and I lived with her until I was 16. A couple of months before I turned 16, she started dating a guy, and he didn't like me at all. I always had to be elsewhere when he came around. Shortly after my 16th birthday, my mom told me I was going to spend the weekend on my uncle's farm. So I went, and it was pretty fun. She didn't show up the day she was supposed to pick me up, so I called her, and she basically told me I was staying with my uncle permanently. When I told him, he was pissed, rightfully so. We both tried calling her, but she didn't answer. We did everything we could think of to get a hold of her, but we couldn't. The last time I saw her was a week later when she dropped off the rest of my clothes. My uncle is technically not my uncle. He's just a family friend, but he's the closest thing I've had as a parent for the last 5 years. My dad and I aren't close. Apparently, his house was too full for me when my mom left. Honestly, a big part of me is glad this happened. Shortly after I moved in, I got my own horse. She's a Clydesdale named Mary, 6 years old female, and she's my best friend. I've been working on the ranch with my uncle since I graduated, and I'm really liking it. I feel at peace. Anyway, my mom showed up to the ranch today. I had just got on Mary. It was funny, she didn't recognize me at first. She came up to me and asked if I'd dismount. I didn't. She told me this story about how she moved across the country with her ex because she thought she'd be happy with him. Then she told me that things didn't work out, so she found a place. Then she basically demanded I come home. I sarcastically said, sure, and I got Mary to start walking. That set her off. She started after me and started ranting about how I needed to live a normal life and that I had to find a girlfriend and not ride horses all day. I stopped and said, as far as you're concerned, this horse is my girlfriend, and that set her off even more. My uncle caught wind of what was happening, and he came over and asked her to leave. She shouted, I'm not leaving without my son. My uncle told her to leave again and threatened to call the cops if she didn't, and that got her to leave. The reason I'm making this post is because my dad just sent me this long text about how my mom misses me and how she only wants what's best for me. He then went on to say that I should give her a chance instead of threatening to call the cops. He ended the text by saying I was a jerk for not even getting off my horse to speak with her. Am I the idiot for walking away when my mom tried to talk to me? Editing to add, my horse isn't my girlfriend. I just said that to piss my mom off. I have a human girlfriend. Second edit, I fixed a typo. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. She abandoned you and then showed up 5 years later and just assumed you would go with her. That's not how things work. She made a choice, and that choice had consequences. Additionally, unless you forgot to include it, she didn't even apologize. As for your dad, he wasn't involved when you needed him, so he doesn't get to be involved now. Given your statements, did you recently come out? Or maybe your mom recently found out you're not hetero? Comment 2. You owe your mom and dad exactly nothing. They very effectively abandoned you completely when it suited them. Full stop. Your uncle is kind of the closest thing you have to a real dad. Guy stepped up when he didn't have to, and has for years, and allowed you to have a good normal. Anyhow, not the idiot at all. Screw them. Stupid and ridiculous that they both feel so entitled that they expect you to obey them. If nothing else, you're 21. FFS. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the support on my last post. It's been a busy couple of weeks, and I've got quite the update for you all. So, after the whole showdown with my mom at the ranch, things took a turn for the unexpected. My mom didn't just disappear back into the void. Instead, she started showing up near the ranch, trying to catch glimpses of me. It was creepy, to say the least. My uncle, who's been more of a dad to me than my actual dad, was on high alert. He's always been protective, especially since he took me in when my mom ditched me. One day, I was out riding Mary, and I saw my mom parked down the road. She was just sitting there in her car, watching. I couldn't believe it. I turned Mary around and headed back to the ranch. My uncle was furious when I told him, and he decided it was time to confront her. He drove down to where she was parked, and I could see them talking from a distance. I couldn't hear what was said, but my uncle's body language was tense. When he came back, he told me she was insisting on talking to me, saying she had changed. He didn't buy it, and neither did I. A few days later, my girlfriend came over. We've been dating for a while now, and she's been a huge support through all this drama. We were hanging out in the barn when my mom showed up again, this time walking straight up to us. My girlfriend stood by me as my mom started her spiel about wanting to reconnect and make amends. I was having none of it. I told her that she lost the right to call herself my mom the day she abandoned me. My girlfriend squeezed my hand, backing me up. My mom tried to play the victim, saying how hard it was for her to leave, but I cut her off, reminding her that she chose her boyfriend over her own son. The tension was thick, and my uncle came out to see what was happening. He's always been a calm guy, but I could tell he was ready to step in if things got out of hand. My mom tried to appeal to him, but he shut her down, saying that family doesn't do what she did. Just when we thought it couldn't get any more intense, my dad called. He'd been pretty absent since the divorce, more interested in his new family. But now, he was suddenly interested in playing peacemaker. He told me I should hear her out, that she was still my mom. I reminded him that he wasn't exactly Father of the Year either, and that I was doing just fine without either of them. The next day, my girlfriend and I decided to take a long ride to clear our heads. Mary was as steady as ever, and being out in the open with my girl by my side helped me breathe easier. We talked about everything, my mom, my dad, and how we were going to handle it all. She's been my rock, and I don't know what I'd do without her. When we got back, my uncle had some news. He talked to a lawyer friend about getting a restraining order against my mom if she kept showing up. He was ready to do whatever it took to keep me safe and give me peace of mind. I was grateful, but I hoped it wouldn't come to that. A week passed without any sign of my mom, and I started to relax a bit. My girlfriend and I spent our days working on the ranch and planning for our future. We've been talking about moving in together, maybe getting a place of our own someday. My uncle's been supportive, saying he just wants me to be happy. Then, out of the blue, my mom sent me a letter. She apologized for everything, said she realized she had made a huge mistake. She didn't ask for forgiveness, just wanted me to know she was sorry. I didn't know what to feel. Part of me was angry, but another part of me felt a tiny bit of closure. Sil calls me out for being a Sam and not understanding the struggles of working moms. My brother and husband get involved. Oh boy. I, female, 21 years old, have 3 older brothers. My brother, male, 32 years old, is married. His wife is 30 years old. Both of our parents are lawyers. Mom was still working full-time when my brothers were born or when they were little. Then they had me and my mom, who always wanted a girl, decided to switch to being a stay-at-home mom, SOM, and later on she started working part-time when I started school. I think I was a little bit more sheltered than my brothers, but I think that's just because I'm a girl, not because our parents love me more. I've seen the same with my friends' parents as well. I am also married, and I am a stay-at-home mom too. My husband and I have a 4-month-old baby boy. Now, the conflict. This happened last week at my nephew's birthday party. At one point, I asked everyone if they minded if I nursed my baby there, or if I could go to one of the bedrooms to do it. Everyone was fine with it, so I just went ahead, and we continued talking. I am only breastfeeding my son. I don't pump milk or give him formula. My sister-in-law asked me about it, and I told her that I prefer to do it like this. My son's pediatrician says he's healthy and doesn't need formula, so I enjoy breastfeeding. Well, my sister-in-law thought it was very offensive, how I said that I liked it, because it sounded as if I don't understand my privilege for being able to do it. She said, "Of course you like it because you don't do anything else all day than have your kid in your arms and breastfeed." I feel like that came out of nowhere, honestly. And I asked her why she was saying that. She told me that she's tired of hearing me talk about how wonderful motherhood is, because I'm just a glorified housewife. And I talk like being a mother is the easiest thing in the world, just because I don't work, and I don't do most of the housework. I told her that every time I talk about motherhood, I do it from my perspective. It's not my fault that other women don't enjoy it as much as I do. I am just giving my opinion, and that's all. Well, then she started calling me out on my privileges, and said that I'm just a silly girl who doesn't understand the world. I got angry and replied to her. So on top of what my sister-in-law was saying, my brother started telling me to stop with that spoiled brat attitude and that I need to face the real world. He insisted on how privileged and spoiled I am by our parents and my husband. My husband intervened, and my brother, and he argued too. My parents also tried to say that my sister-in-law's attack was uncalled for. My husband and I left, as did my parents. About half an hour after I left, I received a text from my brother saying that everyone was uncomfortable and some people have left the party because I can't take criticism. He also said that my nephew is severely upset with me. My husband and parents are very obviously on my side, as are my friends. Although, one of them told me that maybe my sister-in-law is stressed out because of her job and taking care of her children, and as another mother, I should be more understanding. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Everyone sucks here. I disagree with most here. Sounds like sister-in-law asked if you exclusively breastfeed, and you said yes, you like, with italics, breastfeeding, insinuating those who use formula are doing so because they don't. Sister-in-law took offense and rudely wondered if you knew how privileged you are. She's right. You then stated, it's not your fault that you enjoy motherhood more than others, the others being working moms with more on their plates. At no point did your sister-in-law indicate she didn't enjoy motherhood. She said you had it easier, and you do. Also, time for your mommy to wake up and realize she did some damage with your brothers. Comment 2. Not the idiot. She told me that she's tired of hearing me talk about how wonderful motherhood is, because I'm just a glorified housewife, and I talk like being a mother is the easiest thing in the world, just because I don't work, and I don't do most of the housework. Projecting like this, she should get a job with IMAX. Now, for the update. Hey everyone. A lot has happened since my last post about the blowout at my nephew's birthday party. I thought things would cool down, but boy, was I wrong. After the party, my sister-in-law's comments kept replaying in my head. I couldn't shake off the feeling that maybe there was more to her outburst than just the breastfeeding comment. My mom, who's always had a keen sense for when someone's holding something back, suggested that maybe my sister-in-law was dealing with her own insecurities about motherhood and work. Turns out, my mom was onto something. My oldest brother, the one married to my sister-in-law, called me a few days later. He sounded exhausted and admitted that they'd been having issues because my sister-in-law felt overwhelmed balancing her job and their kids. She'd been comparing herself to me, thinking I had it easy as a stay-at-home mom. I guess my comments about enjoying motherhood had hit a nerve. But that wasn't all. My brother confessed that he'd been feeling the pressure too. He'd been working extra hours to cover for a colleague who was on leave, and their home life was suffering because of it. He apologized for his part in the argument and asked if we could all sit down and talk it out. I agreed, thinking it was a step in the right direction. However, when we all met up, things didn't go as planned. My sister-in-law doubled down on her previous comments, accusing me of flaunting my easy life in front of her. She even brought up how our parents had helped my husband and me with the down payment for our house, something I hadn't thought was an issue. My husband, who's usually the calm one, lost his cool. He pointed out that we'd never asked for the help, and it was a gift from my parents because they wanted to support us as new parents. He reminded her that they'd offered to help them too, but my sister-in-law had refused because she didn't want to feel indebted to anyone. The conversation turned into a full-blown argument, with my brother trying to mediate between his wife and the rest of us. My parents, who'd been silent up until then, finally spoke up. They were hurt that their generosity was being thrown back in their faces, and disappointed that what was supposed to be a family meeting had turned into a blame game. Just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, my other two brothers, who'd been quiet spectators until now, chimed in. They'd always been the protective type, and they didn't appreciate the way my sister-in-law was talking to me. One of them pointed out that she'd been taking advantage of our mom, asking her to babysit at the last minute, without ever offering to return the favor, or even just to say thanks. That revelation was a shock to me. My mom had never mentioned it, always saying she was happy to help with the grandkids. But now, with everything out in the open, I could see the strain on her face. She admitted that she'd been feeling taken for granted, but didn't want to cause any family drama. The meeting ended with no resolution in sight. My sister-in-law stormed out, my brother in tow, while the rest of us were left to pick up the pieces. My husband and I have been talking a lot about what happened, trying to figure out where to go from here. We both agree that family is important, but we're not sure how to bridge the gap that's formed between us and my brother's family. In the midst of all this, my baby boy has been a ray of sunshine. He's oblivious to the tension and just happy to be with his mom and dad. I've been focusing on him, trying to keep the stress away from our little bubble. I've been getting messages from my brother, asking if we can try talking again, just him and me this time. I'm torn because I want to mend fences, but I'm also not ready to face another round of accusations. My friends have been supportive, telling me to take my time and do what's best for my mental health. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.